We're going to talk about the first match being played. It is the upper finals, Twisted Minds versus
ENCE Esports.
There you go.
It's an exciting match. These two teams, I think, are pretty. I mean, well, obviously at this point they're the only winners standing, top two in EMEA. We'll see if someone from the lower bracket can upset that, but I think these teams both have looked incredibly strong.
Yeah.
And I think we've been looking forward to their face-off since we've seen them in the bracket. Twisted Minds, of course, we've got to talk about them first. Very exciting roster with a ton of these World Cup champions coming in off of Team Saudi Arabia, staying together. I'm familiar with some of that myself, right? Take that World Cup synergy and spin it into a competitive team. And then they've really made great pickups on the side, having Kellex and Slay very consistent on the support line. But really, I think the biggest stars of this team, it is the Saudi players, right? It's Yubi and Quartz. We got to think about elite DPS players. Quartz, one of the best hit scans. A lot of people are putting respect on his name. And as well, I think KSA on the tank, you've got to be thinking about him. Very flexible. Like, for me, there's no tank that he is staying away from or hasn't really played.
And that is the big question going into this series, because on broadcast, we've only seen KSA really play Ramakra and Mauga, but that was because they played against Oblivion and the Winston. Whereas ENCE Esports, Vestola played a lot of Orisa so far. We've kind of seen this team settle in to just supporting Kevster on the Echo, the Tracer, the Genji. That's what he does best. Kai has done a phenomenal job on the hit scan so far. And this team has been all about playing to your strengths and setting up your damage players to have enormous amounts of impact. So in this series, is Vestola going to stick to this Orisa? Will we see KSA flex over to the Orisa as well? Will we see a mirror? Or do either of these teams have something cooked up for this very unique, special winner bracket finals match?
Yeah, I would say KSA are the team, or rather KSA is the player I would expect to see, more interesting comps from. They were playing a ton of Mauga the last time we saw them on the main broadcast. Whereas in NA, it felt like the meta was trending more and more and more towards the Orisa. Things were really solidifying. The comp looks very flexible, very strong. And Sojourn Tracer Mirror, I mean, really, I think both teams are in their comfort zone, right? I think Yubi and Quartz, Kai and Kevster, there's Kai and Kevster really well-known, well-established players in the pro scene, with Yubi and Quartz more on the come-up. This really is kind of the story of the whole event, is these lesser-known players getting a chance on the big stage versus some of the biggest names.
I mean, both of the teams, they have great players, and they got their own thing going on. But I mean, looking at the maps that we're going to Lijiang, we've seen a lot of Lijiang, and this one was for today. It was picked by Twisted Minds. What do you think? What are they thinking about?
I think Lijiang is pretty default for both these teams, because both teams excel with their traditional off-tank style, playing the Orisas, for example. You don't want to go to Ilios, because the tank matchups get pretty weird there. For example, if ENCE Esports is relying on Vestola. So I think both teams are pretty comfortable on Lijiang. I think, interestingly for us, the second map, Blizzard World, is more interesting in that regard, because I think both teams maybe in that regard would have been comfortable on King's Row, but instead ENCE Esports picks Blizzard World. I'm curious to see how the comps develop throughout the series as this series goes on. I'm just telling you right now, Danny, I'm expecting a map 5 banger.
Same as well.
I just want to see.
I think our viewers are thinking the same thing, because we're looking at the viewer predictions right now. Wow. They got 46% for Twisted Minds and 54% for ENCE as well. That's almost 50-50. Are you guys surprised about that outcome?
I feel the same way about this series, honestly. That this is too close to call, that these teams, we haven't seen them match up quite yet in the tournament. And I think, if anything, this is the match everyone's been waiting for. This could very well be a prelude to the grand finals. I think whoever goes down to the lower bracket here is a very, very serious opponent in that lower bracket final.
Yeah. Guys, I think I'm ready. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready. Absolutely.
All right, Twisted Minds versus their opponents. It is the upper bracket finals. Guys, let's jump right into the game. Lemon and Necra, take it away.
Thank you so much, Jake. I like the way Jake said this is a prelude. I kind of called it an appetizer, but I think I made both of us hungry.
You did, and now I'm thinking about the coffee or something that, I don't know.
It is
whatever
early.
the desk was talking about yesterday.
I love coffee, and I'm really stoked for this match. This, I think, is going to be the grand final, pretty sure. Twisted Minds versus ENCE. A lot of hype behind Twisted Minds, but we got to hype up Quartz versus Kai Sojourn. That is the matchup of the year, in my opinion.
I am so with you on that one, because we have a chance to see both of these Sojourns truly tested in this matchup. When you put the best Sojourns in EMEA against each other, I think it could end up being just an absolute bloodbath. We're looking at first picks. We're looking at who can actually get those frags in order to give a team an advantage. And Quartz and Kai, it's gonna be pretty awesome to see.
And ENCE are no strangers to this sim Mauga teleport strat that Twisted Minds have been known for. I don't know if we're going to see it. Maybe the Roadhog is troll. But a lot of weight rests on Masa's shoulders, who did an amazing job of getting ENCE out of those hairy situations when Team Peps had their attempt at the sim Mauga teleport strat. Masa needs to help his team get out, and actually Kepster is going to roll out on the sim to assist with that.
Okay, so two great disengage tools. You have the Lucio, as you were talking about, and the teleporter too, even if an engagement tool now.
Oh, we're like talking about disengages. How about just Wing in, teleport in, and Quartz, the random shot into Kevster as he was dealing with the sim turrets that were dispersed on the point. So an early advantage for Twisted Minds. The point will unlock in a few seconds. And as these teams are so distant, this could be coming down to Sojourns, but as ENCE backed away to heal back up their tank, Twisted Minds smell blood in the water. They advance, and you do not want to play on this coast side and have the enemy team in your face. You're gonna get booped off, you're gonna get shot, and you're gonna die, and that's what ENCE felt like.
That is going to be a quick take here for Twisted Minds as they are able to capitalize on that early pick onto Kevster. They are all the way back up and running, though. The teleporter can be such a nice tool to have to be able to close that gap, and Twisted Minds are set up on the point. You gotta watch out for where those turrets are. You can't take too much damage from them.
Okay, KSA goes in with friends and Slate teleported in. I wonder if Twisted Minds got split up on whether they wanted to teleport into the point or into the market side, and ENCE took full advantage and they managed to get the point back.
You'll see a lot of focus fire go onto these Maugas too. Just because they are beefy does not necessarily mean that they are unkillable. So the focus fire there can really help to just dismantle an entire team's push or defense. Pay attention to Vistola and KSA, their health bars right now as we get into this next fight.
Also the overclock from Kai, about 34%, I'm not very good at math, 25% faster than Quartz. And this can make all the difference. Kitsune rush first from Crimzo. There's not gonna be time for that poke fight. And there's that pressure you're talking about onto Vestola. But Kai didn't even need the overclock to pop off, get to that fight. And Twisted Minds didn't kill a single thing. That is a clean team wipe for ENCE.
And another big setup opportunity here too with those turrets right in that car wash. Oh, that brings me back to the good old days. Maybe not. But you have so much to work with too if you're ENCE. You only use the Kitsune Rush there. Now you're spoiled for choice with having 4 more ultimates on the board. As you called out, like there was no overclock used in that last fight. So Kai could just set up on the back, find an angle, and pop some heads.
He'd like to, but there's no heads to be seen. Twisted Minds were hiding, ready for the teleport play, and they kind of use it as a fake. They place it at the back of the point, don't actually end up using it. Photon barriers, now the gates are up. The dogs can only just bark at each other. No fighting quite yet, but barrier engaged first from Masa. Kelix holds on to his, now pops it second. Advantage for Twisted Minds. Cage fights exchange, so there is no leaving. It's do or die, and Vestolo is hoping to leave the point, or at least take somebody with them, and he's the first to fall. Both Kirikos are down, so limited resources, but a lot more DPS, it seems, on the side of Twisted Minds. But I think the KSA presence when Vestola was missing added to that DPS and gave Twisted Minds the edge at the end.
That, and then just the extra little bit of cardiac overdrive on top for the life steal made sure that KSA was able to stick around and clean up those final few members of ENCE. So the scoreboard's starting to get evened a little bit in this very first round. Even though ENCE is in last fight territory, they can come back into this with just the Kitsune Rush at this point. Really good call and response here from both teams to adjust to all of the ultimates thrown at this, but Crimzo is going to be first to the rush.
See if those early few seconds, Crimzo and Slay pretty close. ENCE not being able to take quite yet. They're trying to force Twisted Minds out. Kitsune rush, but what an advantage Kevster is built for his team with that photon barrier, 10% faster than Yubi, and Yubi managed to pop his, and not in the most ideal spot, and he died. He got booped off, and wow, there's some revenge, but Kelix manages to climb back up. It's a bloodbath for this point with ENCE at 99%. Twisted Minds still trying to touch, but Kai, this is his turf, and you're not allowed in.
First round going over to ENCE, and pretty cleanly, I gotta say. Despite the fact that Twisted Minds was able to grab control of the point first, we've always seen this from them time and time again, that they're very aggressive to take these team fights, whether it's using the teleporter to W key into the enemy team, or even just being able to wrap around and find an angle that surprises the opponent. I think that Twisted Minds, you can always depend on them to start to set the pace of all of these fights. And that's where your point comes in from earlier, right, Jen? ENCE, with the teleporter usage from Kevster, or even just Masa's ability to recognize those spots and get the team of ENCE to disengage with those just amp it ups and the speed. It feels really good to see how ENCE is adapting to this pressure that Twisted Minds is putting on them. Like, they're first to the point, too, at Twisted Minds.
Yeah, and with the quality of players on ENCE, it's no surprise that they tried the mirror on the last round and bested Twisted Minds at their own game. But this is a different game, but Kevster landing all those stickies on the Yubi, that is such a squishy character, and that's a first blood for ENCE. But that's not all, because the point will unlock in a few seconds. Quartz and friends of Twisted Minds are going to be leaving to not give up any more ult charge to the other team.
Yeah, they can't, because what they're looking for too is just some poke. Twisted Minds, they can start to build up ults of their own if they're able to just stay a little bit away from that line of fire. But look at that, they're gonna wrap around.
Ooh.
Tank.
Yeah, Yubi and friends teleported and surrounded them. Kai had the lineup as soon as Twisted Minds dropped in. He said, "Where are we dropping, boys?" Well, off a cliff, I guess. Vestola with 3, and ENCE will keep control for now.
The POI is now Dojo, I guess. They had to call it out first, though, maybe before trying to take that drop. But Twisted Minds, they got to go again. They're giving up a lot of momentum here to ENCE as they start to generate some ultimates. Crimson's got their rush. Kevster is the duplicate. He can start to play really aggressively here. And the teleport in is a little bit safer this time from Twisted Minds.
Okay, KSA taking the brunt of that pressure, and the Kitsune rush is behind him, and KSA can't keep up. And that's maybe because Kevster is duping a second Maug on the field, and Crimson's Kitsune rush just lets Kai shoot faster. He's even deadlier than before, and ENCE are flawless so far.
It's been clean, very crisp. Kai is on it today. I don't know what he had for breakfast, but it is working out, and this overclock could be just the end to this second round here. ENCE could get a flawless 100-0.
See, Kai not even needing the overclock to hit heads and do damage, but he's gonna pop it anyway. Terra Surge, Vestola's trying to line up the pins, and Kai with 2, make it 3, and he is a menace, and Quartz needs to hang. I hyped up this matchup, do not disappoint me now, but ENCE seconds away from having a flawless round 2, and they're going to touch the spawn room doors. That's when you know you're in trouble. What a map win from ENCE, taking Lijiang Tower.
That was total domination there. ENCE did not give up an inch when it came down to the point, when it came to point presence. They were so predictive, watching the teleporter usage and playing around all of those angles so nicely. Like, whether Kai was by Dojo, whether Kai was on the bridge, he always had a good sight line onto the team, and that's why we saw so much of Kai in that kill feed.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say something else, but how about eat a healthy snack every time Kai gets a kill? And I think the world would just be so much healthier.
Take a sip of water, and everyone will be hydrated.
Right. Yeah, actually, yeah. Take a sip of water, hydrate yourself every time Kai gets a kill, and you'll never have to go see the doctor again. And I know, because all the casters talk about is Kai, but how can you ignore the level of impact that he has? And even Kevster being able to mirror the Symmetra. I wouldn't say Kevster is the Symmetra guy, but he is can play any hero at an extremely high level guy. And to catch Yubi, to really read how Twisted Minds are moving around the map with the sim, and even killing them before they land or even get it set up. Kevster's first blood on Echo was shooting down Yubi.
Removing UB, just removing the Symmetra, removes so much utility from this composition. We see the Symmetra because of the teleporter usage, the turrets, they can help just to increase the damage output from Symmetra and also just slow some of your targets. So it's really there as just like a good supportive pick when it comes to that DPS role. And if you're able to get her charged up, she is going to be dishing out a lot of damage as well. So it makes a lot of sense here that UB is going to be a lot of the focus for ENCE when it comes to this Symmetra Mauga composition we're seeing out of Twisted Minds, and it's working out. It's cutting off all of their avenues to disengage, and where's the photon barriers as a response mechanism to something like the overclock.
And Vestola on the Orisa, like, I think it was able to damage and mitigate quite well. This was a more one-sided second round, to say the least. I think, and that's also ENCE playing on their comfort comp. So they're winning very easily on their comfort comp, and they're winning on someone else's, I wouldn't say someone else, I would say Twisted Minds really innovated in that regard. So ENCE truly are probably the most one of the flexible teams, most flexible teams in OWCS.
I totally agree with that. You heard the desk talk about this as well. Kevster just having that flexibility to be able to play so many different DPS, and ENCE were locked in today. They didn't falter. They didn't stutter when it came to the compositions that they picked right out of the gate and whether they were going to be the key to success. We're going to see that a lot today, I think, as ENCE is warmed up and ready and have started to figure out what all of these teams left in EMEA OWCS want to do. And that's kind of what happens when you've got an extra 24 hours to start to figure out the meta.
I like the way, yeah, that's the key word. Twisted Minds stuttered. Were they silent or were they silenced? And I think ENCE did especially that on round 2. Round 1, I think both teams had a really good understanding of the macro around the Symmetra teleports and being able to give up space, let the team walk in, and then kind of react afterwards. But ENCE will be ahead in this series. But how will we go after this? We're going to go to a break. When we return, map 2. Let's get this show on the road indeed. Blizzard World is up next and chosen by ENCE.
Woohoo! We're going to Blizzard World. I love variety. I love this map aesthetic. I'm super excited to just keep kind of switching things up here. EMEA is very well known for playing and picking King's Row. So, you know, a little bit of spice of life, if you will.
Yeah, and it's okay that Twisted Minds lose control. That's probably one of their weaker game types. The only map they did lose this bracket was Samoa to EXO and on control. And I think Twisted Minds are super chill with going to Blizzard World because they're undefeated on this map too. So I'm gonna love seeing both these teams at their peak.
It's going to be more of the Mauga composition from Twisted Minds. They haven't decided to change anything up yet when it comes to the 5 hero picks that they have on the squad. But ENCE, once again, like they've got the Orisa, they've got the Echo, and Echo here can be just such a devastating hero to try to take down. She's got a lot of high ground to play around, a lot of building to cover her and give her some leeway. And yeah, let's see what Kevster is able to do with this.
Kind of a slow burn towards the point. Twisted Minds have gotten there in one piece, but ENCE are gonna try and take them down to pieces, and they're on the high ground. I wonder where Kevster's gonna be lurking. He obviously doesn't want to be the focus of that attention, is gonna wait until Twisted Minds teleport in. Here's Kevster going above, and that's where those nades too can do some good AoE to Twisted Minds, but already 2 ticks and almost a third. ENCE are really having issues getting space back. And that's where you rely on Vestola, that chunky anchor, to just pave the way for him and Kevster, who apparently got a 3K.
You gotta wait for those cooldowns to come online as well if you're the Orisa. One of the ways she is survivable is when she's able to hit that fortify and those spear spins, right? So if she doesn't have those, it's very difficult for her to get into the action and make sure she's able to take on something like the Mauga that can like burn or burst her down and so on and so forth. So you gotta give a little to get a little. It's all about winning the whole war at the end of this, not just this battle. And Kai is off to a great start.
Ooh, Vestola was getting focused, a little bit isolated, but I think Orisa can hold her own very well. And look, even spears down Yubi. And that is, again, Yubi needing to be more careful how close he gets, and he's trying to go unnoticed to build up that symmetric charge and build up that DPS. And Twisted Minds all jump off the map too to not give any more ult charge. It's pretty smart.
Yeah, but the Symmetra can be a little bit slow sometimes to be able to build up that charge to where she is able to deal that maximum amount of DPS. And if you don't have that survivability or that sustain, then she isn't going to be able to get up to that peak. It doesn't mean that she's not effective, right? But maybe the sound barrier is going to be what they need in order to get in there and just make sure that the Symmetra is alive long enough to be able to get that DPS online.
Twisted Minds, sound barrier to sound barrier, and the overclock by Kai, and he deals KSA, but shifts over to Yubi. He slides past the photon barrier. Giga Chad, Kai is insane, but here is Kai, finally ready to best him. For once this series, it's awesome to see Quartz alive and well with the 3K.
That overclock coming on time in the nick of time, and then you also have the photon barrier as this giant shield, so easy for you to stay well and defended. Now Twisted Minds get this payload unlocked, so the work that they were able to do to get those 2/3 of the pie does pay out, but now it's all high ground control here for ENCE. And how do Twisted Minds get into this one? They can play around the cart here. They're a little bit vulnerable to the sticky bombs and focus beam from Kevster, but you do have this cage fight. But I don't know if you want to use it anymore. Also, where was it?
He was still trying to use the teleporter, and he just got beamed down by Kevster. Kevster has his number, and not in a good way. Like, Kevster has been focusing a lot of those grenades onto UB, and Twisted Minds could easily just use that right room for cover. And they have Kitsune Rush. With that in mind, let's do a listen in with Twisted Minds to see how they plan this out.
I have to kill you.
Yeah, I'm good. Worry.
Get back. Can you take me? Can you take me out? Can you take me out? We can.
These copy and Kiri.
Yeah.
They might not have anything. 60 beats, Soldier Norissa.
60 beats. Okay.
I'm gonna to be right side.
Okay. Yeah, someone needs to push the point, by the way, so we have to like someone fight.
No, just move it, Norman.
Okay, well, I'm gonna pick here from left main.
Well,
I'm ready.
That was gonna be a fun fight until Quartz just got literally run over by the Orisa train of Vestola. I love how ENCE are taking the initiative though. Twisted Minds, they stay focused, they stay calm. You hear it in the comms that they have. That Quartz is trying to be supported and they're trying to ult track.
I mean, spot on too with the 60% basically across the board for the Lucio, the Orisa, and the Sojourn. So good fight coming up here for Twisted Minds, knowing that they've got all of that planned out, and they can expect maybe this Terror Surge now to be online after all of those picks.
Okay, we're gonna give them another no, I'm not even gonna do a listen. Everyone's starting to die already. Twisted Minds, man, at least somebody from the DPS line is always getting rolled for some reason. UB or Quartz. Like, Vestola is so aggressive. KSA is missing, and it's almost C9 that you almost had to add to your counter in that moment. Terra Surge forcing out the Suzu. Sound Bear from Calyx. This is a hectic fight. Twisted Minds started off losing a few members. It didn't look good when UB was missing, but Quartz hits 3 this fight to save the day.
Wow, I mean, the extra card progress is super beneficial there because it did force ENCE into an unfavorable position. Just being able to brawl on the point is where Twisted Minds are going to find a lot of their strength in this matchup. Now that they're heading into this third point, the Echo also can become a little bit less impactful if you're able to just kind of play around those low ground territories of this third and final point here. But Kai's got the overclock. There are tools that ENCE can rely on here to put the defense here.
Oh, this overclock. Everybody run! Grab your stuff. Actually, leave your baggage behind. I think that's what the flights tell you to do. And mask yourself before others. Some Twisted Minds tell their packet spot. All thanks to Kai.
Kai is just gonna be that dominating force there on the high ground. Disruptor shot, though, can move ENCE into a different position, but it's the rush here from Slay that you can just topple over them.
Oh, jeez. As soon as Twisted Minds take any teleporter, someone has to be sacrificed to the gods. It hasn't been a clean transition from Twisted Minds, all thanks to ENCE's quick reactions, reading these plays like a book. Twisted Minds, even though they start the fights 4v5, they are able to find equalizers. Kai is down, a huge source of damage gone. Kitsune rushes exchanged, and Twisted Minds have a cage fight. KSA wants a healthier position, and well, ENCE are actually dead. Even with the sound barrier being used, and Kelix being able to conserve that for the next fight is big for the final push.
Great Kitsune rush there from Slay. It was good placement in order to find some value there for Twisted Minds for every member. And now that we're on this final point, you've got that cage fight you can just lay down here.
Well, let's hear the final moments of Twisted Minds as they look to cap.
Fight. Nice team.
Nice, let's go. Guys, I swear, I don't know what's wrong with us. We're not talking. Like, it's like we fucking gave up. No one knows what to do.
Hard focus. I can't play the game.
Okay, not so composed, but maybe winning will help alleviate some of those feelings. It is important to keep communicating, and Twisted Minds, 27 seconds on the time fake is pretty solid.
Very solid. It's at least over the 0 mark, which buys them an extra chance if and when ENCE do cap all 3 points of this map, and then we get to go into extra rounds. Y'all know the drill at this point. But I hear from those comms that maybe sometimes it's just that tiny little wake-up call that you might need in order to snap your team out of it. They did look a little frustrated and flustered. Every single first pick that came through onto a DPS meant that they were lacking so much in that damage department that it would be very difficult to outfrag any of these fights. A lot of these fights are going to be decided by how much damage output either of these teams are doing, and can they get a pick onto a big impact player. And those players right now really are going to be Quartz, Yubi for the utility that Symmetra has, and why that has been a lot of the target focus there for ENCE, but Quartz as well, because we've seen what he's able to do with those overclocks and just natural railgun charges.
And I hear about this discourse online, not only in this game and others, of just this competitive nature brings out so much passion, frustration. But what I note from those comms is that there's someone trying to bring everyone's head back in the game. And that tells me that Twisted Minds really want to win, and they do not want to beat themselves up. ENCE is going to be the ultimate challenge, and they are heading towards the point. ENCE on the left side. Kevster already has 30% charge. His grenades have been marking Yubi. He has to watch his back, and I think that's why Yubi is surrounding himself with his team, so he's a harder target to hit, and ENCE can play this dance all night long. But Twisted Minds are the ones that have to watch their back, because you never know who's going to be at an off angle or up and above. Kevster always finds his moment to shine, and ENCE will be able to get the first and second take. I'm not sure if there's a recontest possible.
I don't think so. Not when KSA is going to go down that late in that fight, because even if you do have the teleporter back, you're not getting there in time if you're that Mauga. So there we go. Point unlocked here for ENCE. Payload gets a chance to start moving, and Twisted Minds, they kind of continue this pattern of those picks. Just Kevster getting free reign and real estate in the back line, and that real estate say chief, you know.
Yeah, I see Kai looking a lot towards KSA. ENCE fighting for the high ground using the dupe of Kevster, and he flies back to safety. Kevster always measures his aggression well. He doesn't go in without his team at least taking the attention at a different side. Twisted Minds teleport right to the cart and use the Kitsune rush. Beautiful speed out of Masa. That is their only option of disengage, and we have talked about his role on this team. ENCE get out scot-free from that.
Yeah, it's like they could see that the Kitsune rush was coming, so may as well just disengage from that and now go in with your own. That is going to force Twisted Minds back so much. Look at the space now that ENCE gets a chance to take.
And Yubi teleported them out, so he gets a golden shiny sticker too, the same one Masa got. This is quite literally a chess match of how you move these pods, and the teleport placed by Yubi to get them out of the Vestola Terra Surge, and he committed to that, and Masa committed the barrier to save Vestola in that moment, and it didn't work out for ENCE in that moment. Twisted Minds now halfway to B.
Yeah, Sound Barrier was just a little too late there to save Vestola's life, but it, you know, sometimes you get booped away or something, and it does prolong how much airtime you get before you land back down with the beat. Twisted Minds are gonna go touch the spawn doors, so new achievement unlocked for them. But they are playing way better together as a team. And with this close hold that they have, it is going to be difficult for ENCE to assail that position. They have to go in with some big ultimates here. Kevster with a duplicate is a good way to unlock that checkpoint for them as you look at something like duplicating the Malga once again, which has been a lot of DPS.
And KSA went to touch the spawn room doors to get that last 10% for his cage fight, and Twisted Minds were hoping to teleport onto ENCE and force that cage fight, using the Photon Barrier to protect their backline. And Twisted Minds have already gotten that first pick onto Vestola, who's getting so much of that Quartz attention, all of the DPS attention, so Twisted Minds have stabilized.
Well, you see how where Twisted Minds took that fight too? Kai was struggling to find any sort of meaningful damage when Twisted Minds were playing underneath Pylon. So it is a good awareness of where Kai might want to take those angles and not leaving yourself vulnerable to that type of damage. There's also way more focus fire being put onto Vestola right now, and once your main tank is down, what kind of push do you have?
Twisted Minds just want to play faster than ENCE. This is going to be a big fight. This time, let's go and listen in to the ENCE comms on how they're going to plan this out.
Has real.
Make them drop.
So you know E.
Might drop on me. They're gonna drop on me. I can get top, man.
DP behind.
Fuck him.
3, 2, 1.
Fuck me. Don't trade. Kill.
Help. Same.
Gonna get me. Oh my god, turret. Oh my god.
Three on.
Yeah, I think it's
I'm laughing at the turrets.
And it's
I love it,
also-
turrets call out.
Comms are just repeating 70 times and really just reacting to Twisted Minds. There's not really much playing to do when the enemy comes to you. And Quartz on top of Suzu might have been able to save somebody from a deadly shot from Quartz, and he jumped down and got greedy and found an important kill onto that Sojourn. But a Photon Barrier protects this defense maybe for one last time as ENCE fight tooth and nail to finish off these squishy targets. Now that KSA is trying his best to protect them, Quartz swapped to the Widow, came out of spawn and found 2 headshots. And now he doesn't have to build up that Sojourn charge. He wanted to get kills as fast as possible. God, Quartz got 3 this fight, I think.
No
and
way.
We're so close to capping, and it came down to just one Lucio and ENCE clutch up at the end.
Wow, that is absolutely insane. If not for the headshots that we got a chance to see, what skill that we from those shots, but it'd take a considerable amount of time off of the clock. You're now evening the score a little bit when it comes to those time banks.
Well, Twisted Minds are already losing 1, trying to go for a spawn camp, kind of the same way they did it towards the initial point to get a kill onto Vestola and surprise them, but Twisted Minds then didn't disengage, decided, well, let's all die on the point, and you take off a good 5 seconds in exchange of probably a lot of volt charge for ENCE, because they built up 3 from that.
That's a lot to work around. I think the Terror Surge as well, when you're starting to round this final corner, hold on to that ultimate. What can Twisted Minds do except to plant themselves on that point and potentially have to play into the Terror Surge itself? And Kelix doesn't have the sound barrier yet.
Kitsune Rush available. Kevster. Oh, force out the cage fight of KSA. No one from ENCE got trapped in that. Now just trying to break it down. Kevster out of his form, and KSA was low, and the focusing beam from Kevster came out at the perfect time. Jake talked about the importance of Akko and her strength against Malga teams, and Kevster is on full display, a masterclass of how that's done.
Yeah, did you see how quickly the Malga got deleted with the focusing beam? Holy moly, melted. Now, there's where the Terror Surge can really start to come in as we see Vestola walk into the back line.
KSA got one last touch, but Vestola's in spawn got a full ripped Terror Surge on UB. And Twisted Minds won't have that photon barrier for a few more seconds, and it's just clean kills out of ENCE to not let reinforcements stall this out any longer. And only a 7-second difference separates these two teams.
That speaks volumes to the defense that Twisted Minds had on that second point. I was almost a little worried that ENCE wasn't going to be able to make it past that second checkpoint and get themselves to this third. But evening up the time banks like this means that both teams are on a fairly even playing field when it comes to who is going to generate ultimates, who might get an advantage in that regard. One thing that we know, though, for sure is that ENCE had a fast take of that very first point, and Twisted Minds struggled a little bit to get out the gates.
I still think that this was just as close as Lijiang Tower, and ENCE don't even have to go for the mirror. They're going for counters instead, and that's Kevster's whole motto of he can literally play anything. He can play the counter and beat you. He can play the mirror and beat you. Now, I wouldn't say that they're winning decisively on the ENCE side, as you said. Point B was a struggle of a time, but you love to see the aggression out of ENCE, especially Vestola, because yes, Javelin Spin, eat damage, go burr, but also the Javelin Spin gives you an increase of move speed, and he's using that to close the gap between him and Quartz. And Quartz is calling for help, and you kind of sense the frustration in his voice, and maybe from the whole team in the comms we heard earlier.
Whether it's Quartz or even Slay in those final moments, you shut off such a big source of healing from your team when you're able to lock them closer to the spawn. They can't get out and actually make sure that that defense can hold strong. So here is Twisted Minds on the attack. They've really got one shot at this to see if they can make it work.
You're right. One chance, one opportunity. And the teleport is kind of a fake to the high ground. So ENCE descend down the stairs. Twisted Minds were good at getting 2 takes pretty much for free. It's the ENCE retake you gotta worry about, and KSA extended around the corner and got bursted, probably from this echo. And wow, Kevster brought down to 30, and Yubi goes for a risky teleport play to the flank to finish off Kevster. Twisted Minds need to take risks like that because ENCE are so good in their macro. Twisted Minds with that 1 minute will at the very least get the point cap.
That was awesome, though, too, because look how much damage that UP was putting onto the back line of ENCE. Full beam charges, just absolutely mowing down the supports, the damage lineup. Kevster didn't stand a chance in those moments, especially if you are looking for that cooldown going offline of just him being able to fly up into the sky. So really good recognition there by Twisted Minds. A big fake from the teleporter too, but now it's time to get as much distance as possible, and it's overtime now. They can't get off the cart.
Ooh, 4v4, Kitsune rush advantage. Crypto is 10% behind, and ENCE can maybe just save this for the next fight. It's really too little too late. ENCE are playing from behind, and Kaya charged up rail, focusing on just getting KSA low. ENCE are going to return to the high ground. Twisted Mind's going to stack 3 on to maximize their distance. This is overtime, and barrier from Kelix will be exchanged with Crimzo very soon, and ENCE will have to jump on them once respawns come back. And they're not really taking any risks with their positioning. Now you have Kai with the overclock playing at the back here, and the sound barrier from Kelix to help Twisted Minds slip through it. But slowly but surely, ENCE chunked them down, and they didn't even need to win the fight. They just sent them off the cart.
Kitsune Rush will do that to you sometimes,
Yeah.
and so will an overclock in your face. But ENCE did a great job of maintaining composure in those final moments. They had to give up a lot of percentage and a lot of push on the second point to be able to come in and just overwhelm Twisted Minds with those ultimates. So it puts a lot of pressure on ENCE now as we've swapped sides. Can they match that progress? They also only have a minute in the bank, and Twisted Minds had a flawless first point capture, and that gave them a ton of momentum to work with heading into that second point with the early Kitsune rush and just good positioning on their part.
And we teased just how good this Sojourn matchup was going to be, and I think Quartz is going toe-to-toe with Kai this time. Quartz had this incredible performance at the World Cup on this hero, and Kai's always been the GOAT. He's touted as the best Sojourn, at least in the Overwatch League. It's always been these two. And I'm so excited to see how this will develop, because that can be the first pick potential. You know, you talked about the picks from ENCE, and they can also get Kevster to be on board with that. Yubi, you know, Sim is not the pick kind of gal. She's more of the teleporter gal, but Twisted Minds still win fights.
Twisted Minds on the defense, though, they have a similarly unique issue when it comes to the teleporter. Where do you use it? You know, do you try to fake it? Do you try to force out cooldowns? Because that is a great use of the teleporter right now, especially if you've sort of you know, warmed your opponents up to the idea that those teleporters can be engagement tools in these types of situations.
And the box of victory for ENCE at the end of point B. Twisted Minds just playing around and surprising Vestola, but it's gonna take a lot to take down Vestola, but they catch Kevster and Twisted Minds. When they go for these teleport plays, it can be really hectic, and you gotta pick the right target. They gotta communicate and keep those comms active, and you can already see those improvements, but nonetheless, ENCE will still cap the point.
Oh, they're also going to start to build up to a couple of things here. They don't have anything yet, and it is going to be a bit before we do see them get an ultimate online. So Twisted Minds, this is their time to shine. Come back in with this early engage. Get a quick pick.
Oh my god, you saw KSA slam into Kai, who still managed to get out and get like a random headshot onto Yubi. That's crazy. And it's not been totally safe yet after losing Kevster. Twisted Minds wanted that early close range fight at the choke, and now they don't have DPS, so it's kind of all up to KSA, and Twisted Minds are okay just taking this as an eco fight and building ults, because all Twisted Minds need is one fight win to take the map.
Yeah, well, Twisted Minds are going to have the Kitsune Rush, and that's it. ENCE have 5. I'm just doing some simple math right now on broadcast, but I think that 5 is better than 1 if you're able to layer them effectively, cycle through them, so you're not just using everything at once. Because you do have to worry about the end game here if you're ENCE. This could be potentially 2 recontests if Twisted Minds want to end up taking this fight a little bit early, but Twisted Minds, you heard them alt tracking. They know they're going to be at a disadvantage here. And look at Kai waiting for the opportunity to strike.
Oh, better watch your back. Oh, Yubi. Well, you made 2 of those shots using kind of a fake teleporter play. ENCE will have dupe. ENCE have a lot more tools up their sleeve. It is not just Kevster or Kai, but they will coalesce together to get to that box of victory. And now ENCE go to match point.
This was a close map, though. Major credit to Twisted Minds. Their defense from point B was able to limit the amount of disparity in those time banks, and they got very, very far with the minute that they had to work with. So it did, at the end of the day, come up in ENCE's favor, but Twisted Minds, they really turned things around, especially after we did that check-in in comms, and we heard that they were frustrated. You could feel it.
I felt the vibes, but at least it looked like constructive vibes of, this is what we need to fix it. Everybody wake up, because that's what Twisted Minds need right now, is a wake-up call. This is the only team that I think are going to challenge them and really push them to their absolute limits. And if there's anybody just being more quiet than usual, then when you go for these teleport plays, if you're all not on the same target, if there's someone that's tunneling on an Orisa with armor, or Kevster who's flown away out of cover and you're chasing the wrong people, that's where just these silly little micro mistakes can spell the end of Twisted Minds in these fights. And ENCE look very stable even when they get engaged on. It's the ENCE reaction that you got to commend.
I'm with you on that one, because whether it's the teleporter fakes, we saw just great reaction times coming out from ENCE to recognize, hey, nobody's coming through this. Why don't we just shoot the teleporter anyway, shut off their ability to actually go through this, and then focus at the task at hand. The other thing, too, is like sometimes they're just splitting their focus. You know, Kai, Kevster, they've got different targets in mind, and they're able to just win those 1v1s. Even if it's Kevster trying to go up against a Yubi, that focus beam is so strong compared to the consistent DPS output that you could get from a Symmetra. And on the flip side too, Kai is not fearful of going up against Slay, Kelix, just getting a support out of the way.
Absolutely. And just, we got an update from our stats team about the Kai versus Quartz matchup. Kai, I mean, on map 1 led that 27 limbs to the 5 of Quartz and a 2k damage difference on map 1. And I really saw Quartz improve on map 2, but that same gap existed. 47 limbs for Kai, 37 for Quartz, and a 2k damage difference between 20k and obviously 18k. So Kai is still ahead of the game, but I think what's important is that ENCE have another big source of pick potential with the Echo. And I'm not even going to discount UB because he's being so creative with these teleports. He's using them to fake. He's teleporting in and out. It's not a full team teleport. It'll be 1 or 2 people. And UB is taking risks to go after Kevster when he does go into cover. So I love what UB's doing.
I agree with you. I think that UB has been playing amazing, and that's why ENCE is like, oh, we got to get this Symmetra out of the way. Because if you leave it alive too long, then the beam damage is going to be very detrimental, and those turrets too. Symmetra still has the buff that she ended up getting along with the Mauga one, that patch, that one, and she still has it. The teleport is a little healthier, so are the turrets, and the turrets also do just a little bit more damage. So it all adds up.
And when the fight just moves all around, it's hard to get the turrets always in the right place at the right time. But maybe this is the right place that Twisted Minds can go to. Colosseo is their choice for push, and this could be their final shot to really shake up ENCE.
One more chance. Colosseo, I see this being kind of another chapter in the same book of the Mauga versus the Orisa, and the Orisa is just getting the better of the Mauga. So many different counters to the Mauga in the front line, whether it's Kevster's focusing beam, the sticky bombs as well, to just make sure that a target is a little bit easier for Kai to pick off. Clinical play coming out from ENCE. They've really worked out this matchup, and they've prepped for this.
And both these teams are undefeated on push. I mean, obviously, when such a small sample size and these teams just barely have a scratch in their armor, but I think this is still a pretty close match. I mean, the round 1 of Lijiang Tower went 99-99, and then even this push on Blizzard World was a 7-second difference between the two teams. But that 7-second difference also dictates who is attacking first and where that box of victory is going to be. And ENCE just only getting to point B, I thought was still very commendable and still pretty far with only 1 minute that they had and then the overtime that happened. But ENCE just were able to beat them out in the end.
ENCE really had their number. You called that out, like, I think at the beginning of map 1 or somewhere in the middle, and I was like, yeah, that's a great way to describe that. It's just having a good concept of how Twisted Minds want to take these engagements and just being able to adapt on the fly. I think that, like, the way that Twisted Minds has played, they've always played very aggressive. We already said that they were going to start to set the pace of all of these fights, high tempo for all of this match, and ENCE is the team that has to be prepared for that. And I do think one of the strengths of Twisted Minds having that type of tempo setting has caught a lot of their opponents off guard, but not the veteran talent that we see on ENCE.
And ENCE, the last time we casted them, if I remember correctly, in Colosseo, like, they didn't run their own sim TP. They just used Masa to disengage from it and keep the space between the two teams so that someone like Kai can pop off on the Sojourn and lead to fight wins before the teams even get close to each other. We'll see how the strats develop, because ENCE seem to really adapt to their opponents or go for the mirror, and it's been successful either way. And ENCE could be 1 map away from going to the grand finals without losing a single map. They could be flawless.
They could be flawless here. I have thought about the Sombra pick there that Kevster was hovering over, and I said, you know what? Yeah, do it. There's a great use for Sombra in this meta, even though she did have that ultimate charge, 8% difference reverted, but Kevster on this Echo has been so nasty. And if you're locked in like that, playing a hero that is just a good counter to the Mauga, keep playing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Sombra no longer broken, but still playable, of course. But I think we've only seen Backbone pull that out as an emergency. Well, let's try something since we're losing type of beat. But I'm surprised Kepster is still on the Echo. He's gonna have to fly on alternate angles, probably on the other side of this glass, and can fly above it to get involved in the fight. But he has to play in a lot of cover because the poke of these Sojourns is what's really important.
I don't know how much he cares about also flying too high either. Right? Like, he can play around all of these pillars, as you said, and ground echo can still be very good if you can weave those sticky bombs through to one of the targets in the back. And if there's focus fire from the sticky bombs as well as a railgun charge shot from Kai, that's a deleted target, especially some of these smaller heroes like the supports.
And Kevster is farming ult, like he's the closest one. Actually, no, it's Slay. My bad. Wasn't aware of your game. Early Kitsune rush, 10% ahead of Crimzo, giving Twisted Minds a lot of space to work with. But you gotta shout out Masa for helping ENCE disengage and now re-engage off of the Kevster cage fight that he got. And he's getting so much healing. I thought Kevster was gonna die for sure. And this locked Twisted Minds into a fight that they weren't really prepared for. And Quartz can't escape either. That's a late stagger, and ENCE, we'll see if they can take a lead.
The power of the ground echo.
Yeah.
A duplicate online. Well timed with something like the Kitsune Rush. That's just a very fast duplicate getting charged there by Kevster. And now too, being able to take the high ground, the straightaways. Kai is also at a really nice angle, but Twisted Minds closing the gap again here with the teleporter. Great disengage from ENCE.
Yeah, but as they leave, pillars are going to be more out in the open, and Twisted Minds want to engage off of this, but Kelix dies and there's no sound bear available, but Quartz gets the trade, and the overclock from the high ground. Kevster went for an aggressive challenge, and testing Quartz's aim. I mean, you're going to find out the hard way. This guy is a Chad on the Sojourn.
So he's just so good, and Quartz is gonna have to continue to close that gap as well that we were talking about in the stats between himself and Kai, and it got better, right? Blizzard World way closer in terms of KD and also damage output. So Quartz is definitely showing up to this match today, but gotta keep him alive long enough to be able to get that business done.
Time to get to business. Sound barrier used first by Kelix, Slay with the Kitsune Rush, and Masa uses his barrier second. A little bit of an advantage for ENCE. And Vestola and friends still trying to prevent Twisted Minds from getting that lead. It's still 33 for ENCE, and Twisted Minds have lost Yubi on the setup. And Kevster gets to fly above and get Twisted Minds so low as they try to leave this pillar side. That's why they went back to this hallway. But this is just a panicked exit from Twisted Minds, and Slay is getting staggered.
Oh, there's no follow-up there from that cage fight either. I know KSA is good, but it's difficult for a Malka to solo that fight when you've got this fortified Orisa in front of you that's also just hitting you for critical hit damage, and then you also have your own supports as well that are able to join you in those fights. But this card isn't making too much additional progress before Twisted Minds are able to come back and get a contest. Oh, a big
very
too.
close map. Ooh, that is big. Twisted Minds still to get the bot going though, and Terra Surge, Kevster with the dupe. You're never getting a clean fight win if you're either team. You may get first blood, but it's always traded out. Kevster on the dupe. Oh, okay, well, Masa didn't respect the 1v1, but I respect the will to win. But it is ENCE with bot control, 48 meters heading for that checkpoint, and Twisted Minds can't contest that.
Even the cardiac overdrive just to get away. That's not what you want to be or having to use that cooldown for. Teleporter too, there you go. It's a little bit of a fake, but the high ground control being in ENCE's favor is a huge boon.
Oh wow, I didn't think Twisted Minds were gonna be able to contest the checkpoint, and it worked out. ENCE went to the top to set up Kai for a long range fight, and Twisted Minds got on the bot and managed to win the fight over ENCE. You do not really want to get this past 64 meters. This win or this comeback from Twisted Minds is within arm's reach.
For sure. It starts with a Kitsune Rush here from Slay. You also have this Photon Barrier that can give Twisted Minds a much stronger defensive position, especially when going a little bit more out in the open. So pay attention to how kind of Slay and Kelix are going to play this one. What does this Sound Barrier get used for? Do they want to use it as a call out for something like the rush on Crimso's side?
Oh, Kitsune Rush exchange, UB with the Photon Barrier, and ENCE have to make a difficult decision of whether you want to push past that Photon Barrier, because obviously you can't shoot through it or shoot into it, and ENCE decide to disengage, and Kai's on the flank, and he's close to an overclock, but Twisted Minds are pushing ahead with the teleporter, and they got access to Crimso, so ENCE didn't have time to set up. Twisted Minds, with fantastic initiative, will have that fight win.
Big fight win means that they need to win maybe one more in order to take this lead. But it's going to be right over that point too. So getting the point captured would be just a really, really big deal here for Twisted Minds to try to seal the deal. 3.5 minutes remaining. There's not too many more fights that are going to happen here on Coliseum when we are playing around this midpoint. But ENCE coming back in here with the overclock.
This is an important fight. Can ENCE extend their lead? They're already up by 2 thanks to the Terra Surgeon. That pairs up well when KSA wants to play that close with the cage fight. Kevster is farming dupes every single fight, it feels like. So 64 to 62. You're going to see another fight before ENCE get to that checkpoint.
Yeah, it'll be somewhere around this midpoint, knowing that Twisted Minds do have that teleporter as well. So they'll be pretty quick to get back up to this high ground. But here's where things start to get really tricky, is that ENCE, while we talked about Twisted Minds having the aggression to push in and really set a high tempo pace, ENCE kind of did that first in those last fights, and they're continuing to do that. Akai pressing the overclock early. It felt like the cage fight from KSA came out a little bit too late.
Gotta pop your ults when you can in these crazy fights. Sound Barrier from Masa versus Kelix using his second. Quartz with the overclock has too much health to chunk through. And Twisted Minds try to make the most out of this. You can tell they're playing so well together. And they've stayed composed, and that has helped Twisted Minds get the lead with around 2 minutes left. This could be where Twisted Minds give ENCE their first map loss of the bracket, depending on how these next few minutes go.
Yeah, I think it could be. I mean, UB have with the Photon Barrier, you can lay this across the bridge, and it just gives you such a strong defensive position around these pillars as well. So it's going to be up to ENCE to try to find those angles outside of that. But UB should hit this pretty early, especially if Crimson's going to go in with something like this rush.
Well, ENCE going to use the Kitsune Rush, Photon Barrier from Twisted Minds. ENCE are just going to bulldoze their way through it. And I saw Casey even try to bulldoze people off the map. And it's an absolute bloodbath. I think only a few people left, but KSA's still kicking. He has a lot of health to chunk through and armor. So this may be the sustain and the front line that you need for Twisted Minds to keep the bot pushing, but now they just decide to leave because they want a quick re-engage.
That was a great duplicate there from Kevster. Poor Masa got moved off the map, and then you were just starting to be limited on your healing resources. So using the duplicate, even just to be able to create space, zone away Twisted Minds. Twisted Minds do get a strong position here, but it gives ENCE a fighting chance with that duplicate.
The Sound Barrier used by Twisted Minds, and the Terra Surge Festola is insane for that. Just donk walks into the team as KSA. It's kind of like both these teams are playing like dive. Like they just cross each other's backlines.
Zero fear. Festola has played this Orisa so well too. I just want to give him so much credit for being able to play so aggressive in that front line, also identifying how to isolate a target and just remove them. And this could be a lead now being taken back here by ENCE, but sub 30 seconds. This is going to be final fight.
This is last fight with Twisted Minds. A huge ult advantage. A Crimson will. Oh, Slay! He's dead, and he doesn't have Kitsune Rush. ENCE have salvaged this moment, and they're at 65 meters, but there is a bit of a pause for that checkpoint, and these are precious seconds that Twisted Minds need to get out of spawn.
Oh man, I mean they can come out of spawn, but that's the checkpoint. It does buy them a little bit of time though, as ENCE has to push this bot all the way up to this midpoint. But oh, what a big teleporter!
So that with the Kitsune Rush, and KSA says you're stuck in here with me. But the Sound Barrier
overtime.
all during this, and Quartz with 2, but ENCE cut off the cards, so Twisted Minds take a map.
I don't even know if I can, like, call that a C9. But that feels so bad if you're ENCE. You were
C9
taking that
adjacent,
fight.
baby.
Baby C9. Lowercase C9. But it feels so bad looking at that scenario of your ENCE because you had ultimates to use, you had the sound barrier, like you had tools. If you're able to deal with the cage fight, you had already got like Kiriko out of the way. There was just way less healing on the board. So I think that very well could have been the end of the series. But Twisted Minds, good spot to recognize, let's just steal the bot away. This fight is chaotic. People are trapped in the cage fight.
Yeah.
So we'll just go, walk the bot away from their.
Oh, is that what happened? I did not know where the bot was. There was just like 10 people fighting each other in a cage match.
Twisted Minds did take the bot.
Wow.
Like the cage fight happened and then like Twisted Mind did take the bot. But I want to go back and actually watch the tapes because I can't remember if like all 5 members of ENCE were trapped in that.
Yeah, Kate, I definitely think most of them were because we had commended Masa's sound barrier for keeping ENCE alive during the cage fight. But I think in that moment, they just focused on the fight and the health advantage that they had. And whoever stole the bot from the Twisted Minds side is big brain, galaxy brain even. And they hand ENCE their first map loss of the bracket.
Such a close one too. Twisted Minds have put up such a heck of a fight for this entire series. Like Blizzard World was already very close. We ended up seeing a really, really close and eventual victory here as well on Colosseo. So back and forth. But once we ended up seeing, here's the fight, right? So KSA is in the front line. You've got the cage fight now, but not everybody's actually trapped in it. So see Quartz actually start to move the bot backwards along with Kelix, and there you go. That I don't know. I gotta give it to ENCE fumbled that one.
Yeah,
honestly.
Quartz and Kelix, big brain that. I mean, Kelix was just trying to hold hands with Quartz to help him with the overclock, where I was like, ooh, Quartz killing. But then I made the ultimate mistake of, but what about the objective? And that's where you had the eyes to notice the bot actually left. And that's why I didn't even notice it. Wow.
That's why I was like, overtime. I'm scarred, Jen. It's every time.
Yeah,
every time.
My jaw was on the floor because I didn't know if that was a C9, but Twisted Minds are happy about that. They will not be swept. And this was Twisted Minds' this was their map choice. And Twisted Minds had to make like, what, a 20 meters something comeback, which isn't insurmountable. But man, Twisted Minds really clutched up.
It really can be tough though when it's Colosseo and you're doing so much in the mid game, but and just around that neutral. But I hear we've got a telestrator from Johnny to break down that final fight just a little bit more because it was so chaotic. We really got to see step by step.
Yeah, that was really chaotic, Nicola. Thank you for throwing it over to me. So, yeah, coming down to the last fight here in overtime. And this is actually a really winnable fight on the side of ENCE. You got the sound barrier, you got the Kitsune Rush, you're about to trade with Slay here. So you're trying to keep this sight angle onto the bridge so you can see the defender spawn here. But as we go ahead and play this out, you'll see that Kevster and Crimso, they're obviously pushing the bot here in overtime. You gotta stay next to the bot. But KSA is gonna come in here, drop the cage fight thanks to Yubi's teleporter. And even though you get the ultimates, you're alive, all and well. You see the bot being stolen right here. It's being stolen by Kelix and Quartz from this off angle. And because of the cage fight, they're just not able to touch the point. I mean, I'm calling that a C9. I think that's one of the sickest kinds of C9 we've ever seen. So I'm just saying it right now. If you had any doubts, Necron Lemon, it's a C9. That's what it was.
Well,
I was worried about calling it because, you know, there's always people in chat that are like, that's not a C9. But no, that was like, so thank you, Johnny, for confirming that.
Yeah, that's what we really needed, Johnny, to confirm the C9. Now you guys can't argue against someone who's like 6'9", okay? So,
I would never want to argue with somebody that tall.
Dude, we're both like 5 foot. We could actually get kicked. So, Surabasa is next. That's ENCE's choice. And I wonder if they're going to be able to close out the series. It is just so close between these two teams.
It really is. I think the Mauga plays a little bit nicer on Surabasa too. Sadly, if you're ENCE, you kind of have to pick your poison of Flashpoint map, and neither one feels great to have to face against a Mauga. But here you go. It's so close. So close to call.
And this next point for Flashpoint is all about mobility. You're just running around like a crazy person. And that's where Twisted Minds, their understanding of macro around the Sim and the Lucio can really help them take different spots around a point and ideally try to catch ENCE off guard.
That too, but you look at the flip side with Masa, that has also been really great at recognizing when to disengage and when to use those amp it ups to also re-engage. And so, like, Teleporter, yes, great to kind of rotate around the map, but ENCE have still been very adaptive and very, very quick to react when it comes to those teleports.
Like that Vestola is sticking to the Orisa. That's been ENCE's style. And he can use the Javelin Spin to close the gap. And, well, Kai creates a gap in Yubi's forehead. And he just... I would love to see the stats between Kai first... final blows and then versus Yubi. That guy must be so pissed trying to set up a teleporter play. And it's just not possible, it feels like.
Well... not a whole lot that you can do if you get hit by a sticky bomb and then just like hit in the head, right? It's a little tough to have to contend with, but Twisted Minds, the teleporter now comes in very handy to try to wrap around the team and just make things a little bit more chaotic. Vestola's isolated too.
Ooh. Yeah, and he's dropping his armor, but he gets healed back up. Great support out of Crimzo. Yubi on the flank really wanted that kill, but he's not going to overextend for it. Twisted Minds are poking and prodding from the left and the right, trying to surround ENCE, and ENCE, you're just kind of in deathmatch mode, and Kai is trying to be as close to Vestola as possible to have some CC to protect him, and Twisted Minds have Kitsune rush first. Crimzo matches it, and Kevster's about to get the dupe, but ENCE, ooh, maybe actually won't be needing it because Kevster is dead, but this is back and forth. Only one tank remaining though on the field, and it's Vestola. He's gonna focus on just winning the point because they don't have to worry about Twisted Minds because they don't have a tank, but the sound barrier re-engage from Calyx is big. Masa uses his second, and the Terror Surge from Vestola forces Twisted Minds out of the points. But an overclock from Kai. Quartz gets shut down before he could use his, and this is feeling like an ENCE point cap.
ENCE point capture, so many ultimates out of Twisted Minds' pocket as well. That sound barrier being the most critical. ENCE had to use a lot though in order to keep control of that point. So Twisted Minds coming into this next flashpoint does have that ultimate economy, but this one's so tiny. We're going to tiny flashpoint. The smallest one on this map with ruins. This is where the Mauga can really shine, as well as this photon barrier, overclock combo, put the shield up, keep Quartz very safe.
Ideally, Twisted Minds would like to cap this in the next 3 seconds before ENCE really force them out, and sometimes it's bait to play on the point. ENCE's comp is all about poking and prodding around them than playing necessarily up close and personal, and ENCE wanted to prevent the cap and expose themselves to close range damage, and Kai and Kevster dying there gives Twisted Minds access to them and also access to the point.
Maybe a little bit of a bait to lull ENCE into a false sense of security so that Quartz could find an off angle and just delete those DPS. No ultimates used there either from Twisted Minds, so with a clean teamfight win, they get to keep that ult advantage big into this next fight.
Twisted Minds have a lot of ults. They're usually good at taking the initiative, but they're relying on Quartz to just take the time to get picks as Kevster wants to be elusive. They're going to take a different angle. ENCE having Vestola lead the charge, who isolates himself but gets back to the team before he drops. ENCE are so low. Crypto needs to take the time to heal them, but Quartz won't let them stand much longer, kneecapping 3 in that fight.
There's so many great angles that Sojourn can take from that defensive position. Like this point, while it's really small, it has a lot of windows. So where is Quartz actually going to pop his head out from? You could never really be too sure. So Twisted Minds, flawless second flashpoint now to tie up the score on Suravasa. And we're going to head over to Palace for this next one. Crimzo ready with the Kitsune Rush. Slay has one as well to respond, but now the ult advantage is to ENCE. So can they end up actually capturing this flashpoint first? They are willing to give up some percentage of flashpoints if it means that they know they can win the victory in the end, the long battle. So let's see what they got.
Teleporter play from UB available to try and contest that high ground, because that high ground is a power position because of how much shelter it has for vulnerable people like Kai. But he always is never playing by himself. He's playing with a team, but Twisted Minds actually teleport onto the point and are using this, well, very sturdy fountain as protection. And it's gonna drop down to contest the capture. And this is gonna come down to a war to see who will cap this first. Every ultimate debate coming out, but ENCE get thrown out using that sound barrier, and Kitsune Rush didn't even have time to really benefit from it.
No, I mean, the photon barrier makes it so difficult because you have to walk forward or disengage, and it didn't look like ENCE were quite on the same page of how to do that in order to back away from that damage or even try to actually use that Kitsune Rush. So photon barrier is now out. They do have a sound barrier for Twisted Minds. Will be good to be able to get some extra sustainability, but Kai first here with the overclock. The teleporter right in his face.
Kai just got run over by the whole squad. Oh my god. Crimzo's dead too. This fight is toast for ENCE. Twisted Minds getting to 70% plus. Masa, you're a demon. Could mean that Twisted Minds could go to map point. ENCE are around the corner for the re-engage, but no ultimates. Twisted Minds deciding to let ENCE maybe retake this for free. No, a recontest comes in right before the cap, and ENCE maybe just depending on Kevster to get the dupe, and Twisted Minds plan a re-engage.
Twisted Minds have already bought themselves a lot to work with. Like 99%, they just have to win one more fight. Kai's gonna shut down this re-engage just like that.
Yeah, Vestola says, look at me, look at me. And then he's just javelinging around and no one's looking at Kai, who gets to throw down a couple of shots. And Kai is putting all that attention and is marking Quartz so that he can have that pop-out potential that Twisted Minds need to win. 99%, I think it's honestly a mistake for Twisted Minds to have given up the free point cap, and ENCE got to manipulate and control that fight.
It's tough too because like the re-engage tools here for Twisted Minds are a little bit limited outside of that teleporter, and it is going to be Kitsune Rush too that forced them to back away, rotate.
And teleporting out, Twisted Minds dodged a Kitsune Rush, the sound barrier from Masa. Kelix is still pretty far away from his, but Twisted Minds may not even need it. They just danced around the photon barrier and used that as an advantage. And Kai is not being able to have as much space as he has before. Twisted Minds will take that point and go to map point here on Suravasa.
All right, where are we heading next? There's only 2 more locations left. It does look like we are heading towards Gardens as this next one. And Twisted Minds, they've been able to make some strong plays on this flashpoint in particular with the Symmetra. Look at the teleporter placements that you get a chance to have. It makes it so difficult for ENCE to try to get the engage here because you're already taking damage as soon as you move in. Disruptor shot as well, already needing to force out some of that major sources of healing from the team. And they do know, though, Vestola spotted those turrets.
Kai with the overclock, the sound barrier from Kelix may have just saved the day, and Quartz shuts down the Kai overclock. Twisted Minds are 1 point away from sending us to game 5 and one step closer to a reverse sweep. Quartz is feeling it.
Well, if there was any team that I think could reverse sweep ENCE, it's Twisted Minds. They are the type of team that is so resilient. They're not going to be giving up here, and they have maintained ultimate advantage for most of this map. ENCE have not had a chance to actually find any value out of their ultimates because Twisted Minds has had the perfect answer for every single one. I'm so impressed by that kick sound barrier just to be able to shut down Kai's overclock, buy Quartz some time, and now overclock for Quartz this turn.
Kitsune Rush from Crimson, but Slay never used his. And Quartz, the overclock, it gets one, but that may not be enough. Slay is trying to conserve this for the potential final fight if they manage to keep this one. ENCE still have a Terra Surge, and it came down to Kai and friends of DPS, the DPS of ENCE to pop off. I'm really surprised Slay didn't want a Kitsune Rush there.
You save it. I think like if you use it that late in the fight, then you're just dead in the water. You're wasting an ultimate. And imagine now, Kitsune Rush and Cage Fight on top of each other. You lock them into the Kitsune Rush and delete people because of how much mobility and attack speed you're actually getting from that ult. So I do love the patience to hold that ultimate.
Photon Barrier, Twisted Minds using that to protect themselves during the cap. 80% plus. This is final fight for Twisted Minds to win, to send us to game 5. And ENCE have one tool, and it's Vestola's Terra Surge, and Kai hoping to build up an overclock. Quartz and Kai need to shut each other down, because that could be the difference maker this fight. But the cage match, the cage fight from KSA to lock Vestola, who counters with the Terra Surge, but the sound bear from Masa could make all the difference. A little extra health never hurt nobody, and ENCE search forward to get access to these squishy DPS. Quartz can jump, but he's about to just jump into his own death. Twisted Minds can't hold on any longer.
Oh, and now they have to go back to the drawing board too because they threw the cage fight, they threw the Kitsune Rush, which on paper felt like such a good combination of ultimates to use, but Masa had other ideas in mind. That sound barrier to save the day, the positioning from Vestola as well to use that Terra Surge, and now ENCE have been rewarded with their DPS ultimates.
Okay, now it's last fight for both teams, at least for this point. If ENCE want to send us to a 0.5, if Twisted Minds want to go to game 5, and ENCE...
A lot on the line.
Kitsune Rush, after Twisted Minds expended every option they had in terms of ultimates, ENCE managed to get the point. Vestola at the front is going to try and prevent Twisted Minds from touching. Sound barrier re-engaged from Kelix. UB is getting into the line of fire, and that sound barrier is gone. That advantage is gone for Twisted Minds, and KSA needs to make space, but he's taking so much damage, and Twisted Minds cannot get the trades. ENCE will send us to a deciding point on Suravasa, the end-all be-all.
ENCE. Wow, what a comeback. That point was looking doomed after Twisted Minds were able to get that point capture first, but it all comes down to this one. We're going to be heading over to Temple to finish everything off, and oh my goodness. Wow, if you thought Ruins was small, Temple does give Temple does actually give it a run for its money. I kind of forgot how tiny this point was.
Yeah.
But perfect territory for this Terra Surge. Perfect opportunity as well if UB wants to hit this Photon Barrier again, but you don't have that
Listening to
overclock
these
either.
comms of this setup from UB and friends with the Photon Barrier.
Where's one? Where's one? What is it? Should I grace this?
There's everything. They drop out of them.
Dying point.
They used Orisa, they used Beat.
Yeah, they have nothing. Close could be maybe. So let's support Kiriko.
Sounds good.
Well, they sometimes you don't even have time to plan, but they focus on the next fight. They don't complain, and it looks like they're a lot more calm than before.
They are calm, they're collected, and so that's a very good thing. I want to know what they're going to be doing in this next fight, though, because at least they have the rush this time.
All right, Kitsune Rush from Slay, Twisted Minds. It's pedal to the metal, and yeah, you can't boop an Orisa and Fortify, but that's okay. Vestola will do the job for you, and return to spawn is so back and forth.
super back and forth, but the fact that Twisted Minds are able to get control of this point now means that they have a win condition in their sights to bring us into a map 5. Reverse sweep is still on the cards, but I'm looking at Kevster and this duplicate to be able to turn the tide here for ENCE and get them back into this one. You also have a couple of other ultimates here for ENCE, so it's the onus is on Twisted Minds here to figure out how they're going to deal with this Mauga dupe.
Okay, Kevster. Frontline. Now you got a lot of options of frontline there with ENCE and Kitsune Rush from Crimzo. ENCE have a huge advantage in this. Twisted Minds are dropping this fight. They're trying to teleport to the other side to have some flank potential. And somehow Kevster falls off the map there, but Twisted Minds still can't get this fight going. So ENCE will be able to match the score soon.
A little bit of an eco push though for Twisted Minds, but this upcoming is going to be the final fight. If ENCE win this one, they will close out this series and this flashpoint. Twisted Minds, they have got to win this one here and now to bring us into this map 5. I'm looking at the Sojourns, Kai, Quartz, both with the overclock, both with so much pop-up potential to finish this for their team.
Okay, overclock. This is what could spell the end of Twisted Minds. Or maybe the beginning of a game 5. Teleport fake from UB, Photon Barrier so that Twisted Minds can dance on either side. And now that ENCE have distanced themselves, they'll allow Twisted Minds to cap because it's about winning the fight. ENCE have time. Twisted Minds, 80% plus. ENCE ready to re-engage. They'll have the sound barrier, but they really don't know where Twisted Minds are and where this teleport is set up. Vestola's gonna scout for them. Sound barrier and Kitsune Rush advantage for Twisted Minds, none for Crimzo. And overclock between Quartz and Kai, but Quartz too low. Kevster with the focusing beam, but it's traded out. Slay got his revenge. It's a 4 versus 4 and 99% in favor of ENCE. Twisted Minds needs a touch, and here is KSA to do just that. UB is by his side. He got the Suzu to build up his DPS. Quartz swaps to the Tracer to get back in time. And Twisted Minds, they can't get clean kills. It's always traded out. And ENCE with the late Kitsune Rush is what shuts down the potential of a game 5 and gives ENCE the series win.
What a chaotic fight to end it all. And wow, those Sojourns, they had a lot of work cut out for them when it came down to having to fight through those sound barriers and also the angles that these teams are finding. But ENCE, they come out on top for now. But Jen, this was just the first battle between these two teams, and it surely will not be the last. I expect that they will play again in the grand finals, and it's going to be ENCE waiting for Twisted Minds to make that comeback.
Yeah, that last Kitsune Rush, I think, made all the difference. We didn't get to really highlight the Kiriko players because there's just so much going on between the Lucios disengaging, engaging, the teleports, the Sojourn battles, the tanks that are trying to scout and take space, that the battle between Crimzo and Slay and how early you get that Kitsune Rush, whether it's you get it first, the other person's 10% away, doesn't sound like much, but those are precious seconds that all your abilities are amplified. And ENCE having that at the very last fight, if they didn't, that fight would have been much, much closer. But the series ends 3-1 for ENCE. They move on to the grand finals. And to hear from the desk, did Twisted Minds have that dog in them? That was really fun to watch.
Behind you, Vesker.
Same.
There you have it, guys. ENCE beating Twisted Minds and goes up to the grand finals for tomorrow. I gotta say, I don't know what you guys think, but that was some crazy good Overwatch.
It was a banger.
It's one of the closest series I think we've had in EU so far. And honestly, I wouldn't have thought so. The first two maps, I just felt, okay, maybe ENCE, they've got this figured out. The Echo is too explosive. The Sim, it's just too hard to make it work with the Mauga. But Twisted Minds, they made me a believer by the end. I thought we would go to a map 5. Incredible team fight execution from both teams.
Right.
Gotta highlight that. As much as we're hyping up, you know, Kai and Quartz, I really feel like UB it's a rough role playing Sim into that. So many uncontested heroes fighting against you, but you need the Sim, you need the teleporter, you need the Sim wall. You're kind of a utility hero, but honestly, props to them making it work, putting all their practice into this.
Me too. Like every time I see the Twisted Mind using the Sim teleporter, I was just so surprised how fast they were moving. I was like, they're in there already.
It was like a jump scare.
Yeah, it was
You
like,
saw the
whoa!
teleporter come down, and then there's just 4 or 5 people in front of you. Yeah, it was definitely a jump scare. I mean, it was impressive to see Kevster come out on the Echo. It's something we've seen before. You know, that's how the Space Station Gaming when they played the Mauga composition. So no surprises when it came to the compositions. But really, it was dominant. Kai here on the Sojourn did phenomenal work, especially early on. Found so many picks with the railgun and the overclock. So it felt like a bit of a comp differential. But as we got towards like Colosseo, we got to Flashpoint, like Servasa, those maps, it really did feel like the Mauga and the Sim teleporter. It just gave Twisted Minds a chance. And really, we were just a couple of team fights away from a potential map 5, Jake.
Yeah, it's shades of London Spitfire of the past, right? Playing a comp that no one else really still believes in. They feel like they're forcing it, and yet still making it look very threatening. I feel like it's easy to think watching this like, wow, this Sim Mauga is so strong, but I think the execution difficulty is so high on this comp. There is zero room for error. One player booped off the TP. Your fight can just be done in that moment, right? We saw when Kai was finding some of those opening picks, the comp looks toothless. But when it is executing perfectly, right, when the TP bombs are hitting, man, that Mauga comes out running, and it is just terrifying. We've seen from Kai's POV that one fight on Suravasa, it looked absurd, right? He just gets instantly popped off the TP. So well played by Twisted Minds. It is ENCE, though, going on to the grand final. Huge for this squad. We heard from the interview before that, like, you know, they weren't sure how they do against Twisted Minds. They had some mental block against this team, but, well, surely that's cleared now. And makes me wonder, like, will Twisted Minds, you know, the way the series went, it's like I could totally understand them committing on this comp, still believing that they can execute better and make it work. But also, could that be a bait, right? Like, could they they could end up being the only team playing the Mauga and the Sim? Is it really the best comp when you're going up against players like Kevster on the Echo? It's scary to not have a true hero to match Kevster.
Yeah. I also feel like, I mean, other than the comps, I mean, I think Lemon Kiwi and Necro also said this, you know, I don't think this is going to be the last time that we're going to see ENCE versus Twisted Minds. I mean, whoever wins our lower semis, the next match, I think they got to be ready for Twisted Mind for sure. And of course, the player of the match, we have to give a shout out to Kai. This guy just does not miss.
Yeah, it looks good.
A monstrous performance, and we saw how much pressure he's under, right, from this Mauga comp. The Sojourn is most often going to be the target of these TP rushes. She's really the most vulnerable hero in the comp, right? Like Lucio and Kiriko, so slippery. Echo's constantly flying. And so as Sojourn, you have to make these instant snap decisions. Where do I go when that TP bomb comes in? And time again, Kai was slipping away. You know, not every time. I mean, no one can do that every time, right? When the 5-man rush comes your way. But Kai's consistency, how calm he is in the clutch, it really is an asset in this type of a match.
Yeah, I do want to say that as well. That I do think that, you know, Kai is a veteran of the sport. You know, I believe this is like his 5th, maybe 6th season now where he's played at like a top level. And I really do think that he's playing some of the best Overwatch he's played in a really long time, because his time on the Gladiators, you know, met with disappointment. The LA Gladiators in the Overwatch League last year didn't qualify for the playoffs. It felt like Kai struggled a little bit. He wasn't as reliable as Jake said you need to be. If you're a main hitscan player and you just play hitscan, you need to be super reliable, consistently just racking up all these kills. Kai is doing that. Like, Kai is a presence in the server at all times. So I think Kai is playing some of the best Overwatch he's played in a long time.
Also, I feel like Vestola was playing some great Overwatch.
Are you just saying that because...
No, I believe...
Watching you.
He's watching you.
No, because I'm a tank player as well. I think tank players are the most important. I just said it. Very biased. Vestola is on the line with us for a post-match interview. Vestola, big congratulations on getting the win. How are you feeling right now?
Oh, thank you. I feel very, very good. This is the match I really wanted to win, and 3-1 is not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, of course, because this is the upper bracket finals, I'm pretty sure that is why you wanted to win. Was there another reason why you wanted to beat Twisted Minds?
Yeah, I've had like a rivalry with him for like the last 1.5 years. I've just keep losing with the same players, Quartz, KSA, UB. I don't think I beat him. I haven't beat him in so long, and I lose to them in Contenders, World Cup, even Saudi League, and now I get the win. It feels really good, and I hope we can keep winning.
Yeah. I want to ask you about your personal journey, Vestola. You know, we've seen you in and out from the Overwatch League, and then you stick with it, you keep competing, and then in the World Cup last year, with Team Finland, all the success Team Finland had. Like, a lot of people were surprised, just like, wow, that was so impressive. You came out and played really, really good Overwatch, and now you're here with ENCE Esports, and now you're qualified for the finals tomorrow. What has this journey been like from you? You know, grinding in the Overwatch League, trying to find some success in the Overwatch League, sticking with it, Team Finland. These past 6 months must have just been so good for you personally as a player.
Yeah, my season with Paris in 2022, it kind of like it made me sad, even though I felt like I was still like a good player, but I just couldn't adapt enough and we did bad. And then I was already ready to quit like after World Cup, but I did so well that I decided to keep playing, and I'm glad people see that I'm like a good player now, and I hope I can keep proving how good I actually am.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. You know, you're finally rewarded for all the hard work and commitment you put in. So it's been awesome to see you succeed, Vistola. It really has.
Yeah, Vistola, I've been excited to see you play as well. I think this is a meta where I feel like these tank players who are so dynamic and so high individually skilled, we're really seeing like the dividends paid from that, especially with like the Orisa coming out, so many of these opening plays, you know, breaking apart the fight. Really, I'm seeing coming out from you. So I'm wondering, how does it feel, you know, to be in this meta where I feel like your mechanics are really highlighted, your individual grind is paying off maybe more than it might in some of these like more like deathmatchy or more brawly metas, right, where an individual doesn't shine so much.
Yeah, it means a lot, especially because the meta like changed so many times last few days, and we decided to like play the Orisa comp like 2 days ago or something, and it's really like helps a lot that I'm able to adapt fast. I'm already good at these heroes. It doesn't take me too long to learn, because most teams, I don't think they can do that on the same level. And that's why they're stuck playing the Mauga comp still.
Yeah, I think that skill has proven more and more valuable as time goes on in Overwatch 2, where we're seeing so many different heroes play. Like we saw, I mean, someone with the Florida Mayhem, right, playing 10 different heroes in the grand finals, right? That skill is so much more meaningful than it's been in the past. So it's been super fun to watch tank players as flexible as you, Vistola, like bringing the heat, bringing these individual playmaking in these games. Something that keeps me really excited about. I think this is a very fun meta to watch, at least personally from the mechanical execution perspective.
All right, Vistola, that is it for the interview. Thank you so much for your time, man. Get some rest. We will see you for the grand finals tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you, Vistola.
Thank you, Vistola. Yeah.
Yeah, so happy for that guy. I mean, there's been so many like European players as well who's been grinding for so long, and now finally, seeing some success.
Yeah. Also, like, I think one of the answers that really hit me was like he said that he was sort of thinking about giving up, like moving on after the World Cup because that sort of worked out for him. If that didn't work out, Vistola wouldn't be here, and he wouldn't be competing in the OWCS. He wouldn't be in front of all of you guys, all the fans as well. So I think it's just like it worked out, right? And also I think not only as we do also have to give credit to Twisted Mind for giving us a great game. And Jake, I heard that there was this like specific fight that you wanted to highlight.
Yeah, so I wanted to do a Telestration to talk about a certain moment in this game, especially on Flashpoint, the deciding map in the series. For me, this was really the high-level Overwatch that I'm always really excited for. And here, of course, in the upper bracket finals, both teams are incredibly good, right? You're not going to see sloppy plays really from anybody. And so when you win, it means something pretty impressive. It's not usually coming from individuals, it's coming from the group. So here we're in a spot where Twisted Minds, right, up 2 points on Flashpoint, 3 crucial team fighting ultimates. Very, very hard to control the space against these. And they're at 80%. I mean, this can very well be the end of the map, sending us to map 5. I thought that's where this would go. ENCE back against the wall right here. So let's see how Twisted Minds open up this fight. They've got a ton of ults to use, but they're a very smart team, right? They open with just the one, just the sim wall, getting control of the point. ENCE knows they don't have the tools to respond, right? Beat is not available. Kitsune Rush not available. You could go in with the Orisa ult, but you're going up against a huge bank of ultimates. And so wisely, they choose to give up the point, and they just take this little reset right here. Get your HP back, let this sim wall expire, and just get one ult out. This is desperation mode for ENCE, so they know, you can't force the fight too early. You've got to be patient, even with your back against the wall. And so we can roll the fight from here and watch how they re-engage, delaying, let this sim wall expire. Twisted Minds, they don't want to push off point either. They want to let the fight come to them. And so just as the push comes in here for ENCE, Twisted Minds, they do a sim play, they try and force the back gap, and the cage fight comes out. This is the crucial moment of the team fight because slight mispositioning of the cage fight here allows ENCE to still have a decent position in the fight. people can come into the cage fight, right? Kiriko's able to stay into the fight and keep pressure on to point without overexposing herself into the fight. And so Vestola's taking all the aggro. It's exactly what he wants as a fortified Orisa with spin, with the heals coming in. And so just that one cage fight, not quite isolating the right player, allows ENCE one chance back into the fight. Still looks very, very difficult for them, but let's roll the fight from here. Beat into spin, Orisa in the front line. And see, the cage fight, everybody is taking the brawl into it, and they're able to battle back through not only a cage fight, not only a sim barrier, but also the Kitsune rush. I mean, any one of these ults should almost be too much to fight in a matchup like this. And yet ENCE, through very exceptional team play and positioning, they battle back through all three. So I was really impressed by this fight. For me, this speaks a lot to their skill, their experience, their veterancy as players. You know, to be down, backs against the wall, it looks like you're going to go to map 5, you're facing reverse sweep, and you still have the calm, the confidence in the clutch to say, all right, just give the point. Like, we don't need to cap. Let them have the point. Let's take this 10 seconds. Let's look for our next opportunity. And that's something you don't really see outside of the elite level.
I guess that's how you win a match, right? That against like a strong team like Twisted Mind, ENCE was able to get the win because they got the skills, like you said, and also the team coordination as well. So great stuff for Team ENCE. Big congratulations again. We will be seeing you guys for the grand finals. That is it for the first match, guys. Don't go anywhere because we have the lower semis next, right after this break.